Business Network's first ever poll. Lou Dobbs will have the latest numbers on the Wisconsin race. In the meantime, joining me now, Steve Rogers, Morgan Tagus is back along with Charlie Kirk. Charlie, this Wisconsin race, I got to tell you something. I know it's just one state, but it's going to be sort of by itself. It's going to be in the news. And if Cruz has a convincing win there, there are a lot of people who think that this can change the momentum of the entire race going on from there.
I think it will. I think this is a real inflection point in the race, and it's been a gap since the last contest out west. We had Arizona and Utah, but what's interesting about Wisconsin is a couple weeks ago, people were writing it off as an automatic Trump victory. Now it looks like Cruz is going to win. He got the endorsement from Scott Walker, and now polling in California shows Cruz creating some separation from Trump and right within striking distance. I think that Cruz could enter the convention with more delegates than Donald Trump, and Wisconsin could be the beginning of that. And this is a state that Donald Trump a couple weeks ago chalked up as a pretty for sure victory.
Morgan, you want to break out that Kool-Aid line again?
No, apparently I wasn't being adult enough for you.
But do you honestly think Cruz will have more delegates than Donald Trump?
Well, it depends on when you're talking about. I mean,
before
if just
going
looking
into
to
the election, going into the convention.
I think it's too close to predict. I do think that he will win Wisconsin by very big, if not double digits.
Is that a game changer?
He needs it. I mean, he desperately needs it. If Cruz doesn't win big next week, win big in Wisconsin, I don't see how, you know, the movement, right, the Never Trump movement really goes forward for a contested convention. So I think he's going to win big, but he desperately needs it as well. I mean, he has. In February, he was at 19, and since February, in just a little over a month, this is not Fox polls, but these are earlier polls that I read today in the Washington Post, he was at 40. So that's a pretty big gap. Trump has stayed, in February he was at 30, in March he's at 30, so he's stayed pretty even.
Well, Steve, that speaks to two things, right? His core followers never leave him. People who believe in Donald Trump will believe in Donald Trump through thick and thin. It also poses the question on how does he expand that?
Well, Donald Trump is going to win the nomination. And Charles, there's a common thread through all of these controversies that we've been talking about. And here's the thread. Donald Trump has exposed the nakedness and hypocrisy of the Republican National Committee, who have said very clearly throughout this entire campaign that the vote of the people do not count, that we do not count. They're bent on choosing who they want to choose. They're going to fail. Donald Trump is going to be the nominee.
So at this meeting today that they had, do you think that this was discussed? Do you think this was brought up?
Oh, I believe it was. I believe that the establishment may realize that very soon they're going to be on oxygen. They're not just opposing Donald Trump. They're opposing the voters of this country.
But, Charlie, the other side of that argument, of course, is that if he doesn't have the delegates, everyone knew the rules, then it goes to this sort of now by now we're all becoming very accustomed to the rounds of voting that ultimately will choose a nominee. You think it's a fair process?
I mean, I think there's a lot of changes I would make to the RNC Rules Committee. Let me put it that way. And you're right. We all know way more about conventions than we did in 2012, I think, already in this point of the process. But my prediction is this. I think it's going to be neck and neck. Maybe Trump will have about 1,000 delegates going in, and Cruz, I think, will be around 910. And at that point, then it becomes who's better organized and who can better sway the unbound delegates and who can better convince the Rubio delegates and the delegates that might be Trump delegates on the first ballot but can be convinced to come over to that side. Cruz has demonstrated he's an excellent organizer, and he has the foresight to have very good staff around him that, like in Louisiana, even though he lost the state, he got more delegates coming out of the state convention.
Steve, what do you make of that real quick?
Well, listen, to my point, the will of the American people don't count. He articulated that very well. No matter what happens, no matter what Donald Trump gets, Charles, you know what's going to happen? They're going to try to choose who they want.
All right,
Not going to work.
Well, let's leave it there, and we're glad you chose us. It was a great show. We appreciate it.